All right, guys, today we're going to talk about solar systems and charge controllers and the setup of the solar system on the truck. There's a lot of complexities when it goes to sizing your system, and there's lots and lots of websites that talk about that. There's calculations that'll take you through it. Unfortunately, a lot of those, it's really difficult to get that correct because nobody knows how much sunlight you're going to get, direct sunlight, for charging. Nobody knows where you're parking your vehicle. Do you park it in the shade? Do you park it under a tree? Do you keep it in direct sunlight all the time? What part of the earth do you live on? Do you live in Alaska? Do you live in South America? All those things come into play to how you size your solar system for your truck, and how much are you going to be needing to use power. So are you using the power for just a refrigerator? Are you using it for a refrigerator, lights, coffee maker, stove, maybe use an electric stove top, something like that. You may use it for recharging your cameras, those types of things. I'm going to outline why I chose to do what I did, and that is to oversize the solar charger or solar panels to the battery a bit, so that I get more charge even if there's not direct sunlight. I do park under trees, I do park in the shade. I want to still be able to get those batteries or battery charged up. So let's get into what I've done, and I'm going to just show you the components, and we can get into sort of the details a little bit as we go. Here, let me just kind of show you my screen. I put together a bit of a diagram because I thought it'd be best to sort of show. Hopefully you can see that well enough, and maybe you'll be able to see my mouse here, but I'll point to a lot of the things. These represent the solar panels. I bought my solar panels through Renogy. They have a cool black kind of outline, so I like it. Kind of looks stealth on the roof. And they are 100-watt solar panels. They'll put out 15 amps. This becomes important as you size your solar system. I run these in series, and so there's an adapter here. These things are called what is it called? They're a branch adapter, a branch connector, and they're MMF+FFM pair, and that allows you to run your two solar panels as one for charging purposes, and then you run that into a charge controller. The last time I did this, I chose a 30 amp charge controller. I've also used a 20 amp charge controller, but what ends up happening is, so I'm running 15 and 15 amps at peak power. Those can actually exceed the 15 amps, and so with the 30 amp controller, I never get above about 20 something amps. With the 40 amp charge controller, I'm getting consistently up to 30 amps of power coming into the charge controller, so that's a lot better. And so I chose the 40 amp this time. With the 20 amp, I was only getting about 15 to 18 amps, so it really didn't matter that I had two solar panels. Anyways, we need to size accordingly. Continuing on from, this is the Rich solar charge controller. I last time used Renogy's charge controller. They were sold out, so I used the Rich. They look identical. I think I'd swear they're the same unit. They are probably just rebranded, and they're exactly the same. So that's the charge controller there. I'd say either Renogy or Rich. They're both fantastic. We move on. Actually, before we move on here, these wires represent the wires, of course, but it's important to size your wires. If you have too small of a wire, the solar panels are going to come with a, I believe it's, they say what gauge that wire is. I believe they are 12, let's see, are they 12? I think it's 12, 14 gauge, something like that. Actually, I don't know. I think they are 12, but have to look that up. But you have two of those coming into one. Once you get to this point, this is the longest wire you're going to have here getting to your charge controller, this set. And so I went with 10 gauge, and that's about the maximum that the charge controller you can actually stuff in there. So the largest gauge I possibly could get from there, and that's only 5 feet long. That way you don't lose power. Basically, that's the idea. Just go with as large wires as you can. You'll notice they're way more expensive, but absolutely worth it. I've done it with smaller wires, and you actually don't get as many amps coming through those wires as you would normally, or as you should. Okay, moving on from there, the next place we're going to have, and that is we have wires going from your charge controller to your battery. You also want those to be sized accordingly. If you can use a 10 gauge wire there as well. If you can get an 8 gauge or a charge controller that takes 8, then that's fantastic. I think 10's about as maximum that'll go into the Rich or the Renogy. I used to use a 200 amp fuse block here. As it turns out, both the Rich and Renogy charge controllers have a power shutoff, and that acts like a fuse, and the battery system as well has an electronic device within it to shut power off if it exceeds a certain amount. So that I've taken that out. A lot of people think it's still necessary, so I left it in the diagram. I just want to show you that I did not use it this time. I've used it in every other one of my builds. Doesn't make much of a difference in how things charge. And then we move on from there. All right. This battery is the Renogy. It's a 100 amp hour battery. It has a maximum continuous charging current of 50 amps. So we're well within inside that for this. If you were to if you were to put more solar panels on, or you were to get a larger charge controller and exceed that, you may want to, you're either going to get more batteries and put those in, or you're going to have to limit the charge controller so it doesn't overcharge your battery. As we move on from there, one of the cool things that I'm going to show you an example of this here. This is also a you can monitor this battery using Bluetooth. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, but it actually saves you a couple of $100s. You don't have to get a battery controller. And I'll show you an example of that here. I walked out here to my truck so I could show you the app for the battery system that's in the truck. And I actually didn't need to come outside, because let me just show you this really quick. So this is the app, and let's see if you can see here very well. But I'll show you fully charged. This is just quick notes on the battery, and it's powered by Bluetooth. So let's see if I click on that really quick. We're going to show the battery levels. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not sure you can see that very well, but it's 100%. Present voltage is 14.4. It gives you the temperature, it gives you our firmware version, all sorts of great information. You can kind of drill down on most of this stuff, and I found that to be super cool. This is the Renogy's app for that battery. But there you go. It actually works from inside the house, which is super cool. Maybe you can see it better in here. That is the app there. Now, seeing how well that battery monitoring system works, which is just blew my mind. Okay, saves me at least $100, if not 200. Moving on from there, we have a pure sine wave power inverter. It's very important to get a pure sine wave. That's the type of wave that is created for power that mimics what you get out of your home. And these usually exceed or are better of a sine wave than you get out of your house. So the appliances that you may use that plug into this, sometimes they won't work if it's not a pure sine wave inverter. Make sure you get a pure sine wave inverter. I have a 1500 watt. It'll take a 3000 watt maximum power, or peak watts. There are 3 connections to this, so I can put in a coffee maker. I can plug in, a power tool, hair dryer, microwave, whatever I want to. The only thing I'm using out of this is an espresso machine. It has a little power on and off switch that's remote. It is connected. It's not wireless. It's a wired controller, which is great. It also comes with 2 power cables, which is fantastic. Those are actually the perfect size you need. Moving on from there, I need 12 volt power, so I bought a 12 volt
power block. I've got all these things listed down in the descriptions if you want to take a look at that. This is probably overkill, but it gives you plenty of connections for anything you're going to need. The connections I use right now are for my IceCo refrigerator, and that is the VL45 Pro, and I've got that listed down below as well. I love that refrigerator. I have 2 power sockets. These would be like a cigarette lighter adapter. And then beyond that, I have a couple of these 3-way USB power supplies. They're the USB 3, so you can do fast charging with them. And so there's 3 in each one of them. I've got 2 of those plugged in. Beyond that, the other things that I actually use are I have a set of lights inside my cab. These are just kind of I've got this listed down below. You could use anything you want. This is for sort of like the ambient lighting in a car. There's 4 of them. They kind of work out perfect. If you try it out during the daytime, they seem really dull or not very bright, but at night they're kind of perfect. And then above that, these little things are the little clips I use. They're 3M sticky clips, and you make all your wires go through these. That's just something I listed down below as well. That is the diagram of setting this up. It's pretty simple. A couple of things to mention when it's important to read your manual on your solar charge controller, at least the setup instructions and the setup instructions on your power inverter. When you first connect your power inverter, these have a capacitor in them that needs to be charged, so you're going to get a spark. Don't let that worry you. Just connect it to your battery. You'll get a little bit of a spark, and then it charges up. If you disconnect it and reconnect it, you won't get the spark again for quite a while because it keeps that charge. These batteries also come not turned on, but they turn on automatically when you get either a draw or you start charging. And so that's pretty simple. Once you connect your power inverter, the battery will start right up. That's a super cool battery, by the way. I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, comment below, ask me some questions, and I'll try and answer them as much as I can. That's a pretty simple to get diagram for you, and that's what I have set up in my truck today. Show you really quick how this all looks. I'm gonna hop up on the truck really quick. Show you here are my solar panels. That is the 2 100-watt solar panels. It'd be very difficult to see down underneath here, but there are the 2 connectors for the solar panels that connect the 2 together. If we come inside, let me unlock this up a little bit. You may be able to see the wires, if you can see that. Wires coming down through the roof here. And all those little connectors. Just that it's important to get the 3M ones. Those are the only ones that end up sticking, and you need to use a little rubbing alcohol to make sure that everything's cleaned up. And then I run those along the outside there, and they're coming down. Let's go around to the other side. And then I have the cables coming down here. Here is the rich charge controller. We've got our battery connected here, our pure sine wave inverter there, and our refrigerator here. And if you come around here, I have an extension cord sitting here so that I can run an extension out to my camp for my my espresso machine. I've got my refrigerator set at 39 degrees. Right back in here, you'll see my block for the 12 volt, all the 12 volt connections. I've got my little light here, my light controller for the little lights up here. You can kind of see those going on. And then right here is the remote for the inverter, and I can turn that on or off there. And that is the entire system.